today we're going to be taking a look at this Sunjo manual hydraulic log splitter. And right off the bat on my first piece of wood, we're going to see one of the issues it's got, which is with a piece of wood that's too short. Now, whether it's a manual or a gas-powered log splitter, neither one is immune, but a maul or a splitting axe never has this problem. Surprisingly, I actually got most of the way through it on this, but right there it hits its maximum stroke. So I'll show you what you can do. You back it off a little bit and you use another piece of wood as kind of a shim. Now this works okay, but you have to watch out for the little hooks on the bottom there that cup the log. Because if your shim runs into that, then it's going to bind up and not go anywhere. This piece was a much better size. You can see just how stringy this stuff is and how it doesn't want to split. So just like splitting it by hand, sometimes you got to flip it over and come at it from the other side. So when you open that release valve to let the ram go back, I always try to do it just as little as possible so that I don't have to pump it a bunch of times to get it up, take up the slack to the next piece of wood. So it's always easier to crack it some more and let it go back further than to pump it a bunch of times. Speaking of having to pump it a bunch of times, let's talk about these pumps here. So on the left side, if you'll notice, This one's a little bit bigger. So each time, each stroke that you do moves more fluid and causes the ram to move a greater distance than the one on the right. So to take up all the slack and get right up on the piece of wood, I usually just alternate back and forth. Although pumps for the larger one move a greater distance, but this is just kind of a natural way to take up all that slack. So pay attention here, and we'll do a pump on the larger side and look how far it moves. And we'll compare that to pumping this smaller one. And you can see it barely moves at all. So when you're in contact with the wood and you've got force being applied to the wood, it's best to use the smaller side, since work equals force times distance. We can put in less work per stroke at the cost of having to maybe do some more strokes. Once you get that initial pop of those fibers, then I go ahead and switch back and alternate, just to get through it a little bit faster. So here's a piece that I never would have got through with the maul. For one, it'd be hard to stand up. There's no good side. And then for two, it's got this section where there was a branch coming off. It's just an awkward piece, but the Sunjo got through it with no problem. Here's another one that would be hard to stand up on end. It's got that angled cut. It actually jammed in there and I couldn't release the cylinder. Tried to give it a little bit more power through it. That didn't work. Let's check out the force of that thing springing out of there. So we found a piece that the Sunjo couldn't get through.
Something's up with this guy.
So it's got this little branch coming off here on the top, just out of frame there, and I think that's what was putting up the fight, holding it together.
Just throwing us off.
So we'll flip it around. Come from the other side. It's actually pretty amazing how much easier it was just by turning it around 180 degrees. So as far as conclusion on this tool, I think it's a great complement to a maul or a splitting axe. because it definitely allows you to get through some pieces that you wouldn't. Like I said, some of them can't stand on end if they haven't been bucked quite right, or maybe just need a little bit more power. It's a lot slower than a maul, but it's also less. You have to exert yourself less, so you can kind of have a relaxing, casual time splitting here. It's kind of fun, therapeutic. If you're doing this professionally, on any kind of large scale, obviously you're going to go with something gas powered. But the price is great. These things are under 200 bucks. There's nothing really to go wrong on them. Very little parts. And all in all, I think it's a good complement to a maul. Alright, I'm going to stop talking and let you guys watch these last couple pieces.